should you build Chestnut? Short answer, probably. Long answer, this entire video.
戦場が嫌いなのはただの僕個人の感情だ。隊長としての責任はちゃんと背負うよ。
Chestnut is a 4-star wandering medic from the underground settlement of Durin. Expert and in charge of geological exploration in his hometown. One day he explored the above ground. He discovered that the world above is beautiful, yet full of conflict and war. He decided to do what he can with his healing arts to help and save others. And eventually came into contact with Rhodes Island, and became its medic operator. If not for the fact that Honeyberry is in the shop and is a better medic, I'll probably say a solid yes to building Chestnut. For being a cheaper but solid option to counter elemental damage. But does this second male medic after Ansel really worse than the 5-star? Well, let's see more about this tiny doctor's abilities. As a wandering medic, each of his heals can recover elemental damage accumulation circle by 50% of his attack stat. He can also recover the elemental damage of an operator whose HP is at maximum. But this doesn't mean he can heal operators like Helga or Mudrock. Either way, elemental damage is troublesome. It exists in the recent chapters, and upcoming events should be full of enemies who can inflict it. So building at least one wandering medic like Chestnut is a priority. As for his general stats, for a single target unit, Wandering Medic has a low attack stat. And because their abilities focused more on elemental damage recovery, they are not suitable to become your main medic for healing operators' HP. But when talking about attack stat, compared to other Wandering Medic, Chestnut somehow has the biggest attack among other units in his archetype. And excluding Lancet too, he has the cheapest DP cost among other medics. Now for his talent. Chestnut's talent will make him increase elemental recovery to ground units. Simple but effective, considering ground units are likely to take hits. And this is the list of his potential. Got a good enhancement from his potential. And since he is a 4-star, you will most likely full pot him if you gacha in Horn's banner. And currently, Wandering Medic doesn't have module. Then moving to his skills. His first skill. Chestnut will immediately heal one target, with a high amount of elemental recovery. His best skill to use to give an operator a big amount of elemental healing. And is a more consistent healing than his other skill. It's kinda hard to show. But the number is great as he can heal up to 800 elemental damage. That's 20% left before the negative effect from elemental damage is active. But two problems of this skill are that first, this skill won't increase Chestnut's HP recovery. But just the elemental one, although I think it's still acceptable. But the biggest problem is that Chestnut won't prioritize allied unit that has the highest elemental damage taken. Unlike the 5-star rarity. This could lead to a lot of micromanagement. Since this is a manual skill and Chestnut might give his elemental recovery to operators with the lowest HP, but 0 elemental damage taken. Which is something that you don't want to happen. Now for his second skill. Chestnut's range will be reduced, increased attack speed. And when healing the same target consecutively, he will increase his elemental recovery to that target. This skill aims to give burst of HP and elemental recovery. In a situation like this with a cornerstone unit, the healing and elemental damage recovery he provided with this skill is great. But his range reduction making this skill very restricted. And another problem is that this skill has a terrible uptime with that big SP cost. The initial SP won't make you can use this skill immediately either. For skill mastery, none of his skills are a priority to master. And upgrading him to E2 is already questionable. In general, you probably will use S1 more for a more consistent elemental recovery. Skill 2 has a better effect than skill 1, but this burst skill has more issues. As for his base skills, when assigned to the factory, increase productivity by plus 15%. And when making Originium related formula, increase the productivity by plus 30%. Skill 2 will stack with skill 1, so when making Originium formula, the productivity will be increased to plus 45%. So, will Chestnut become a good operator for your team? Having a wandering medic is considered a must nowadays. Chestnut has good burst of elemental recovery and a cheaper option to build. And while considered worse than the 5 stars, he still do his job to counter elemental damage pretty well. It's probably not wise to compare him with the high rarity, but I won't compare him with the 5 star, if not for the fact that Honeyberry is in the shop. For general content, it's better to use her, with stronger abilities even at E1. Although for content like IS mode, I find Chestnut quite useful, for being a cheaper but solid option to counter elemental damage. So you probably want to build him for IS mode, or need Wandering Medic immediately before you can buy Honeyberry. That should be all. Adios.